Okay. Hello, everyone. Hi. It's this awkward part where I read that my name is Alli Katz. My name is Alli Katz. I'm the program coordinator here at the Kelly Writers House. And
Alli Katz on purpose, like your parents did that?
yeah, they really did. They really did. But it's. Could I?
They give you the chance to be Alli Katz, you grab that chance.
It's everything I have in my life is because of my name, including this exchange. Wow. So I'm thrilled to welcome you all to this reading. This is actually the Bernheimer Symposium, established in memory of the comparative literature teacher and scholar Charles Bernheimer by the Writers House Advisory Board member Kate Levin. The Bernheimer Symposium allows the program coordinator, me, to think expansively about programming. So when my esteemed colleague Lily Applebaum asked if we could bring Patricia Lockwood back to the Writers House, I was like, heck yeah, we can, if she says yes. And she did. So a few years ago, Patricia Lockwood was the keynote speaker in our Twitter criticism, Twit Crit program, which was very exciting. And if you don't know, which would be confusing, Patricia is like one of the top 5 people on Twitter. That's a list I just invented. She has.
Twitter's not good anymore.
Oh,
Be on it.
I've heard.
And if they give you the chance to have that extra number of characters, don't take it. No, in fact, I think you should start tweeting progressively fewer and fewer of them until there's only like one letter left.
Just A's. Well, I did have a joke here about your nearly 69,000 followers, but I feel it's 68. But if you round up
I should work on that.
by an extra 1,000,
Okay, I'll try to get 1,000.
1,000 more followers. Anyway, great animal pics. I personally very much enjoyed your trip to Australia, which feels really creepy to say because we've only met twice, but I followed it very eagerly. Koala hugging and all of that.
You can touch them. They're awful. They're so rude and mean. You think they're so cute. They stank, and they try to pee on members of One Direction.
But only on members of One Direction?
Yes. Harry Styles and some other guy had to they got peed on, and then they had to have all these chlamydia tests.
That's like when you get exhaustion or mercury poisoning. You have to go, that's not real. Twitter, obviously, the account is a gift, but she'll no longer be tweeting, apparently, because her work can't be contained in 280 characters. Patricia Lockwood has written 2 amazing books of poetry. In addition to all those tweets, has been featured in tons of literary sites and magazines. And now, on top of it all, she's written this hit, amazing book, Priestdaddy. Story, it's really creepy to describe what the story of someone's book is when they're sitting right next to you. But I think very generally a story about the Lockwood family, about growing up questioning religion in a religious family, about how her dad is a married Catholic priest, which I have additional questions about. I will ask you later. And among other things, some of the very complicated ways that love works. So if you haven't bought it yet, we have it back there for sale at a steep discount. We make that possible. And I think that Patricia will sign it if you ask.
Yeah, I'll sign it now. Draw animals, sign it too.
Excellent. So,
Any animal you choose.
any animal?
Sometimes I draw people too. I've drawn some Jonathan friends and some
How do you? How would?
You're crucified on a portobello mushroom slice with a mixed grill for his bun.
That sounds.
Love that mixed grill.
That sounds really delicious. That sounds really delicious. Let's welcome back Patricia Lockwood.
Okay, so I actually do have a story, because this was like one of the first events I did. And the picture on my Wikipedia entry is from, yes, it is from here. And if you go to the talk page, it's like white woman with short hair standing at a podium, and that is the Kelly Writers House. So I have no idea like why that was the chosen one. Maybe a Kelly Writers House person has helped write my Wikipedia entry. I don't know. I don't know who wrote it. I assumed my husband for a long time, but apparently that's not the case. So probably the first thing we should do is tweet at Colson Whitehead, right? All right. Colson Whitehead. What should we say? Hi. No, it's meaner than that. All right. We're in Philly on the same night. Is it really? Holy shit. Who decided this? Why aren't we in conversation? We're in Philly on the same night, and you're pulling from my crowd, you. I'm thinking binge, but like is in corn-cobbed, or attention hog. Night, and you're pulling from my crowd. Attention hog. Hog with 2 G's. Tweet. All right. So we'll just let that be. Now, I will let you guys pick what I read tonight. Does anyone have any special requests? I like to do the seminarian chapter because I do like a really bad Chicago accent, like a really bad Chicago accent. But I can also read the chapter where we go deer hunting just for like, autumnal feelings. Really, it's up to you guys. What do you think? I do cum queens sometimes. That's fun. Do you guys want cum queens? Yeah. Sometimes people act like they want it. I need it. You need that. Yeah. All right. If you need it. Here it is. Yes. I'm gonna take a big sip of this coffee. Wow, it's so hot. It's so hot. This is like the hottest coffee. It's really hot. Not to dilute the taste and the flavor, but I am going to, yes. Oh, yeah. All right. Sometimes, because cum queens is kind of like, it reads well, right? So sometimes when I go to a place that I'm nervous about, like in another country or something, I'll read cum queens. Bad idea, don't do that. In Norway, they don't know what cum is. I mean, they know what the substance is, but like the word does not translate. And so you get into this hell where you're reading it and you just say cum, 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 cum over and over again, and the Norwegians are not laughing. And you're like, I'm gonna say cum like 500 more times before this ends. And it's like something Dante would have thought up. The cum queens of Hyatt Place. All year long, I have found myself as ubiquitously in hotel rooms as the Gideon Bible. I have stood in the light of hotel lamps and switched myself on and observed. I know all the soaps. I know all the shower heads. I know that the most popular hotel paintings are Beach After Everyone is Dead, Beige Interpretation of the Rage of a Cat, Squares Going Wild, and A Rose's Period. One by one, I have pocketed the complimentary pens, and one by one, I have memorized the mottos on the stationery. Leave a trail of genius, the Marriott notepaper tells me, which is so optimistic that it's actually touching. All year, I have sat in hotel rooms, and nothing has happened to write home about, which is the beauty of hotel rooms, really. Tonight, however, is different. Tonight is different because my mom believes there's cum on the hotel bed. We are in Nashville, and it is midnight, and my mom believes there is cum on the hotel bed. We were looking forward to an innocent Christian visit in the city of rhinestones and cowboy boots and blonde hair and wholesomeness, and have instead found ourselves in the cum capital of America.
It happens this way. After driving all day, after getting lost on our way into town, after a steak dinner at a local roadhouse staffed entirely with aspiring country singers, we feel we have earned our rest. We check into our room at the Hyatt Place, and we wash our similar faces, and change into our respective pajamas, and yawn identical yawns, and then, as it sometimes does, the whole world stops spinning on a single second. My mother turns back the blanket and gasps. From the look on her face, I can tell she has seen cum. She throws back her head and howls, and the sound chills me to the bone. It is the consciousness of 1,000 cums crying out for a body. This is a Catholic's worst nightmare. Souls all over the bed. Touch it! She commands. Touch it and tell me what that is. I silently beg the fourth commandment to release me just this once from its power. Is this how God wants me to honor my mother? By touching half of a stranger's baby on a hotel mattress? When Moses came down from the mountaintop, did he make the people touch it? I pause so long I get something pregnant. Mom, I'm not gonna touch cum. Just touch the cum and tell me if it's cum. Please don't make me touch the cum. If I hadn't touched the cum, then you would never have been born. One look at her tells me I have no choice. I reach out a trembling hand and suddenly she changes her mind. No. Wait. Before you touch it, get on your internet and Google, how long does cum stay alive? Mom, you're a Catholic. Isn't that one of the main things you're supposed to know? Haven't you guys written entire books about how long cum lives? I can't remember. Just look it up. We need to know. According to the internet, there are two possibilities. Sperm either die shortly after they leave the body, or else they live eternally. First on earth and then in heaven, banging themselves adoringly against the great gold egg of God's face. No one can decide. I can't handle this on my own, so I head over to Twitter, which used to be fine, and start sending out bulletins about my current situation as fast as I can type them. I start at the beginning and I waste no words. My mom believes there is cum on the hotel bed, and she's trying to make me touch it to verify that it is cum. No, Mom, I will not. Immediately, one of my friends responds, touch the cum. Touch the cum with your mom. Pathetic fallacy is real. So just at that moment, a storm begins to beat itself against the window. Thunder bears its crack to us, and raindrops wiggle their long tails down the glass. Lightning shoots down the sky and illuminates us, and I see that my mother has undergone a change. Her eyes are open so wide it's impossible to imagine them ever closing. Her hair runs in wild locks away from her forehead. She looks like Edgar Allan Poe, haunted by cum, chased through the slick streets at night by cum. She shivers, as if someone just came on her grave. An unmistakable look begins to tiptoe across her face. I know that look. All of her children know it. We saw it bending over us tenderly when we were babies in our beds. Mom, no. We're not calling the police. Can't we call the police just a little bit? Absolutely not. There is no special cum division. She sizes up the distance between herself and the phone and then somersaults across the bed. It's a nimble move, the move of a burglar on her way to steal a Pollock from the Met. If the police won't help her, she's going to take matters into her own hands. She rises out of the somersault with cat-like grace, snatches up the phone and starts to dial the front desk, but I see where this is going and wrestle it bodily away from her. I was once forced to switch hotel rooms at midnight because she saw a pube on the bathroom floor, and I swore to myself I would never let that happen again. Pubes aren't contagious, I told her. Then why do we all have them? She retorted. I slam the phone back down and we stand staring at each other, panting like we're turned on. I cut that for some reason, but I always read it at readings because I just remember it that way, but that's just a special treat you get tonight because that's not in the book. Craftily, she decides to switch tactics. Do you think I am overreacting? I consider my answer carefully. My mother's reactions are very often indistinguishable from demonic possession, but it isn't always wise to say so. She presses on. I guess a fun mother wouldn't care about all the cum. I think a fun mother would care the most about it. Bingo. That's right, because you can't have fun if you know that somewhere in the world someone is being disgusting. Mom, it's late. Let's just sleep on the cum beds. Let's just sleep on these cummy beds. Trisha, she says, beds are supposed to be comfy, not cummy. Oh my God, she really is my mother. There were times in the past when I had my doubts, but no longer. I have gazed into a puddle of genetic matter and seen my own DNA. We are more related than we've ever been. We are the cum queens of Hyatt Place. All opposition between us dissolves, and we find ourselves in perfect cooperation. We hide the spot with a fresh hotel towel and then lie awake for the next hour making cum puns to each other. How did we end up here? There was a moment when she first turned back that blanket, when we looked into each other's eyes and a blue current crackled between us, and our bodies made a sudden decision. We were going to say the word cum to each other. It had to be done. The story had given us no choice. There was no turning back. Who did it, we wonder? She thinks it must have been a pervert who gets off on voyeurism of porno. But I think it was probably a businessman with a hotel fetish who shouted the word amenities as he came. A jiznessman, you mean? She says, and I feel like I just taught a baby how to read. The art on the walls has become more abstract. The squares are creaming themselves, and the roses are practically giving birth. I close my eyes and see bright splotches. After a while, I start to drift off, but I can feel my mother's eyes burning a hole into my left cheek. She is awake. She will be awake forever. Trisha, she whispers, I can't fall asleep. I'm afraid to turn around and face the cum. The next morning, she stomps down to the front desk and registers a complaint about the amount of semen in our room. The ideal amount of semen in a hotel room being none. The amount in our room qualifying as an actual wad. She has never felt more alive, you can tell. She is enjoying herself with all the immensity of a recently inseminated elephant. She inserts the phrase, come on, into the conversation wherever possible. And when the concierge attempts to make excuses, she tells her not to give her that load. The concierge's face is serene. So serene that I become suspicious. Perhaps she is the comer. A concierge sounds like a person who comes on beds. Maybe she got to be the concierge because she was able to come on more beds in one night than any other employee. I believe it, actually. I've never had a real job in my life, so this scenario seems plausible to me. In my secret heart, I believe this is how the president is elected. I wrote that before it happened. There are a lot of lines in this book that were funnier before, and that you almost feel a tear rise into your eye as you read, and it's like, that is how we elected the current president. Except for him, it would be, he pissed on the most beds, or others pissed on the beds as he splashed in it and frolicked. Just spitballing. My mother continues to talk, sounding more persuasive with every word. If Daisy's voice was full of money, my mother's voice is full of coupons for free appetizers. She once sent back a piece of Weight Watchers cake because it was too small, and the waitress ended up giving her 3 additional pieces of Weight Watchers cake to take home. If you think that defeats the whole purpose of Weight Watchers, you're missing the point. The point is that my mom wasn't even trying to lose weight. Let me get the manager, the concierge says at last. I'm not capable of listening to the story one more time, so I slip outside and watch the interaction through a window, concealing myself behind a large potted palm. The manager looks to be an ordinary woman, but not for long. The scene begins to unfold, and it's more dramatic than even I expected. My mother is starring in a one-woman play called Biohazard, and the critics are loving it. Unable to capture the full feeling of the experience with words, she resorts to interpretive dance, throwing back her head, making jack-off gestures, leaping back in horror, and finally shaking both fists at God. At one point, she appears to yelp like a guard dog who's been trained to bark whenever cum gets near it. The manager watches in a trance. She's completely caught up in the drama. She needs to know what happened next. What happened next is that your hotel ejaculated on my mother. At least as far as she's concerned. This is awesome. I had to put all this in for legal reasons. So the entire next paragraph I had to just make it seem like it wasn't actually cum, so that we didn't get sued by the Hyatt Place, but it was cum. So again, if you read the book, you're gonna have this extra knowledge of the situation. Oh, it was cum, all right. An open mouth, a shuffling of papers, a tapping of keys. Hotel managers are geniuses at accommodating my mother without ever admitting that her wild-eyed pubic speculations might be true. Because they were true. Now the manager is taking my mother's hand, and my mother is squeezing back gratefully, as if to say that she might recover someday with the help of the purest, most asexual angels. But that day will be a long time coming. She crushes a Kleenex against her face, as if to say that she can never wipe away what she saw. My mother walks through the sliding doors triumphant, and informs me that we have been awarded a staggering 10,000 Hyatt points. If you're not familiar with the Hyatt point system, that's like the most you can get. She believes this is in recognition of our trauma, but I think it probably has more to do with the fact that she was flashing the manager her "let's call the police" look the whole time. Either way, it means we get to stay in the hotel again the next night, except this time, it's free. Success. We join hands and set forth into the morning, united by that human glue which cannot be dissolved. Thank you. Now just imagine reading that to a room full of Norwegians who are not going to laugh no matter what you do. You can see the situation that I was in, how extremely terrible that would have been. Okay, so it's like 35 after. We can do a Q&A. Yeah? If anyone has questions, or should I sit on the chair or something? I'm going to. I love to sit on this chair. All right, so if anyone has questions, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, wait, hold on. Sorry. Oh. Oh, I see. I understand how things work. I will stand if it's still being. We can talk about something else in the meantime. I like your tank top. That's cool. It was the person that wanted me to wear my other. I didn't bring it. But it is though. It's a white shirt and it's like right over the boob, and it's little me. And she's like, I'm little me and I bite because I like it.
It's really good.
Uniqlo, baby.
Trisha, my friend watching remotely wanted me to tell you the other.
You can watch remotely?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's so fancy.
The other one D-boy was Leo.
The what? Yeah, I did not make that shit up about the chlamydia. This is real, yeah. So it's like transmitted by the pests. And so like the koalas knew that these kids were coming and they took aim and they pissed. And I assume that they're chlamydia free, but maybe not. We'll never know. Maybe we will know sometime in heaven when God tells us everything. We good? Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Hi, thank you very much. It was hilarious, of course. And I just wanted to ask, when you're writing, do you find that you get into such a kind of groove with the comedy and the timing and the, you know, what you're saying and as you're writing it, or do you find that, like, at some point you're getting meticulous about it and kind of micro crafting and which, you know, what state do you like to be in?
Well, which one do you think
right.
between those two states? The one where I'm in a perfect flow state and I'm at one with God and everything, or the one where I'm like hammering in a tiny word to see if it's the right one? Yes. So when I was writing the funny parts of this specifically, like when you first write it down, you're like, oh yeah, that's good. That's funny. The next, 1,000 times, it sort of loses a little of its flavor until by the end, like you don't know what's funny anymore. So at the beginning of it, the things that I got down like in a really sort of like rough sketch kind of a way, that was where the pleasure was really concentrated, I would say. And like the stuff after that, where you were really having to chisel at things and see that everything worked in a narrative way and make sure that it wasn't lies, because sometimes Hyatt Place wants you to renounce the truth about things. And like when it comes to stuff like that, when you have to change things for other reasons, yeah, that's absolutely horrible. Yeah.
Right.
So I think when you're working on poetry, that feeling of like first being in a flow state and then sort of chipping away at things is more pleasurable because it doesn't last as long. But you're writing a book like this for like 3 years. So yeah, I far prefer to be in that sort of initial period where you're getting it down. But there's like a pleasure to understanding that you're getting something closer to what you want it to be. So it's not like it's not like I would skip that part. Don't any of you skip it either. That was like writing advice, so take that to heart. This is a casual pose.
Thank you.
Thank you. I believe we have. Oh yes.
That was really entertaining. So thanks again. Yeah.
Thanks.
I don't know if there's any more time for craft questions, but
yeah.
I was going to ask if there's anything recently that you've been reminded of or observed for the first time that is important to you to keep in your practice.
To not get on the internet first thing in the morning, right? Like especially right now. So honestly, the number one thing I would say right now when you wake up, do not pick up your phone first thing. It seems like just a little thing. There was a time that phones were so nice. It was like a window onto a beautiful garden where fun stuff was happening. Phones are not like that anymore. So read a book. Like if you work in the morning, I would suggest like getting a book and reading for like the first half hour or so and then moving into your work. That is something that really has helped me in a time that it's easy to just like basically put your entire day into just refreshing the Twitter timeline, which now is going to be doubly worse because we have twice as much space. So yeah, so I think that cultivating like attention on literature is a good thing. Like we all started out that way, reading books, like we want to be writers generally because we like to read books. But at a certain point, you can get away from that and spend your time doing other stuff that is maybe a little more dissipating, I would say. So make it a physical book if you can. Yeah, so the days when I do that are better than days when I do not. Yes, I think there was. Yes. Thank you.
So I really loved the voice chapter, which I'm sure you hear a lot at readings. And I remember at your event at the Free Library earlier this year, you said that writing that chapter was kind of the closest thing to writing poetry for you, as opposed to all of the other chapters.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if there was ever a point at which you struggled with the placement, or whether it belonged in this book, or whether it was like tonally dissonant, or anything like that.
It was actually one of the first chapters I was working on, so I was able to kind of arrange other things around it because I knew that I wanted that in there, because I did want a sort of free space in the book where it really did feel like I was getting to do exactly what I wanted to do. Because when you're writing about your life touches on a number of other people's lives. I mean, you're not always getting to do what you want to do. You're having to like set down facts in order and, you know, take other people's feelings and experiences into question. But that felt very much centered around me, and I was lucky that I had like a super good, like really literary editor. So Paul Slovak is my editor with poetry, and I had already worked with him on like my second poetry collection, so I had a basis with him. And it was never a question that I wouldn't be allowed to have that in. So I think for me that helped me to write the rest of it, knowing that I could have this one thing that I could shape just exactly the way I wanted it. Yeah. Ooh, this coffee.
Is it still
Strong,
really hot?
It's powerful. Yep, I'm gonna put it over here.
Speaking of other people, like how do you navigate your family when you write about your family in a really hilarious way?
Yeah, my family has been really cool about it. I think all of my brothers and sisters have read it except for my older sister, who's still like a very, very much a practicing Catholic, and I think that she had concerns maybe about how the faith was depicted. But my dad, you would have expected him to be mad. He just feels famous, and that's like all he's ever wanted in his life. He's like one of those people who was born already feeling that he was famous. So if he gets to like have that affirmed in other ways, he's like, yeah. And also, he's never even looked at it. So as far as he knows, it's just like me repeating stuff about how awesome he is, just like over and over. For a while, I think that there were some people in his parish who were going to have like a book club where they read it. And I was like, like maybe recommend that they not do that. But they've all been very cool. I think that my mom was worried too, but she listened to it on audiobook. And I think that it's better when you hear it actually from your own flesh and blood's wonderful voice, you know, that you recognize, that you know she's not trying to hurt you or like be snotty or anything like that. She's just trying to write a good book. But they have been surprisingly very wonderful. If it does ever make it to the screen, however, I cannot guarantee that that will still be the case. But I do feel that it is imperative to get Vincent D'Onofrio to play my father. I feel like if Vincent D'Onofrio can play my dad, no one can be mad about anything that happens. I have a whole campaign going. He's going to be my dad. Anyone else? Why didn't you guys go to the Colson Whitehead reading? Bitch. I don't mean you. Everybody else. Does everyone work here? Is that why you're here? I'm just saying. He's a pretty cool guy, and he's winning like every single award, so. Oh, time to check. I doubt it. He's probably busy right now, doing his job, unlike me. Yeah, no. Oh, beautiful pictures of me. No, I don't see him, but these are lovely. I do. Every single picture that is taken of me as I read, I'm making some variation of that face. It's never like, some people look beautiful when they read. I'm always like trying to make some comic face to really send a point home that it just looks like I'm like a baby going in for a big suckle. Anyone else? Oh, two. Yeah.
What's next for you? Are you thinking about?
I'm working on a novel. It's gonna suck so bad, but it's a fun fun time to be trying something new. Because honestly, can anyone concentrate right now? Is anyone like able to concentrate in an unbroken way on their work? I'm not. So I've been, trying to get back into poetry, and like I've been working on a collection for a while, but I don't feel at any point like I've been in a groove with it. So I'm like, you know what? Fuck you. I'm gonna write, not you. The world. Fuck the world. I'm gonna write down a bunch of lies that aren't true and see if I can gain some control over my reality that way. Let's all write novels. Starting today. And see if it helps. Did you have another one? Alli? Katz?
I just wanted to hear your Chicago accent.
Oh my God. Okay, if you hand me that book, I can read like a little 2 seconds. I read it in Chicago. I read like that chapter in Chicago, and they were very, very nice about it. But I will say that I read that chapter fairly frequently on my tour, and by the end of it, it was like up in Canada. I don't even know what it was. It was not. Somehow we are perfectly comfortable with each other, in the way people who agree about absolutely nothing sometimes are. However, as the weeks pass, it becomes more and more apparent that I am a bad influence. In the course of a conversation about guitars, I accidentally introduce him to the word wanking. What's wanking? He asks. Do you mean like masturbating? Masturbating upon the guitar? That is my Chicago accent. And I do that for like an entire chapter. And I don't, like, if any of you have ever done theater and you do an accent, it gets weird. Like, it starts to get weird, and then you pull it back a little bit, and then it's like it's totally like, what was Renee Zellweger was like, yeah, I was trying to do this British accent, and it was like just going into all these different places across the globe, and she never actually sounded British. Me and Renee are very similar in that way, in that we both have that problem with the accents that we do. But yeah, that's fun. Actually, I read it in Canada, too. Because I was like, it's the same, isn't it? I was like, this is your accent, too, right? And they were like, basically, yes. And then they told me about all the raccoons that have overrun their city. It's so fucked up. Yes, Alli. I am Donald Trump, and Canada is a city. It was in Toronto, and they were like, the stories people were telling me, this old, nice, like, it's like Swedish lady was like, yeah, we had, my baby's nursery had a skylight in it, and I came upstairs one day, and there was a raccoon crouching on the edge of my baby's bassinet, and I was like, you live like this? And then everyone's like, oh yeah, it happened to me too. It was just like that. Raccoons come out at our restaurants and like beg to be fed, and they brush up against your leg like big rats or something. It's insane. I know, I had no idea. So I was like, wow. So I don't even think we talked about my work at all. I was just like, tell me more raccoon shit, because I had no idea about this. They're like, yeah, I go into my pantry and they're eating my cereal. No, they're not. That's illegal. But they're not allowed to shoot them. Like, it's against the law for you to, yeah, exactly, because it's very cool if you're Canadian, and even if you're not, it's cool. But yeah, they're like, we can't do anything about it. We can't like set traps or anything like that. We can have like people come take them away. But so raccoons rule their lives. I'm not sure how I've gotten off on this tangent, but like at all of my subsequent readings, I'm like, do you guys know about Toronto and the raccoon situation? It's like all I can think about. Whew. Anyone else? Questions? Oh yes. Do you have a raccoon story?
No, but I have lots of possum stories,
Ooh,
but
okay.
I'm not going to share them.
All right, maybe later.
Slightly off topic, but I'm curious. There are a lot of impressionable minds in this room.
Are there?
Maybe. It's possible.
All right.
Would you suggest, even though it worked for you, I don't want to influence your answer, meeting someone on an internet chat room and running away with them?
I did that.
I know.
So I will say, all right. Dating now seems seems like really nuts to me. Like you guys have to like swipe on someone's penis and be like yes or no, and then like you instantly have to like meet that penis and just do something to it. Is that what it's like to date at this time, or is it right? Kind of. Is it calmer than that? If it's a penis website or a vagina website, maybe don't run away instantly. On the other hand, if they're that willing to be forthcoming with the most private part of themselves, maybe you can trust them. I don't know. I don't know if it was different for me because I met my husband on like a chat room. Those don't exist anymore. But it was like devoted to discussion of a particular topic. So it was all the people there were there for that reason, not to make the penis kiss constantly.
Like a Reddit subchat.
No. Oh no. Are we? Nope. Are we talking about a particular person who I can look at right now and be like, oh no? Like, is there someone in this room? Is it you? He might be a raccoon girl. You never know. I don't know. It seems very different now. Sometimes I'm just like, I don't know what I would be doing if I had to be dating at this particular moment in time. I'm very like open to anything, so I'm like, I think I would have had sex with 1,000 people by now, to be very honest with you. Like, I don't, so maybe I'm really into whatever's happening now, and I need to be released from like the cruel bonds that are currently holding me so I can achieve my true destiny. But no, Reddit, no. Anyone else, or would anyone like to argue about Reddit with me? Sorry for making you walk back and forth with the microphone.
What's the worst thing that anybody has asked you to draw in a copy of Priestdaddy?
Worst thing. Shit. I don't even know. I think I have amnesia. Like, as soon as I'm gonna answer this. Hello? This is the doctor. Just leave this in the tape. Tired of you now. Worst thing that I was asked to draw. I drew a very poor, I'm trying to think of things that I did a bad job with. And that was generally like, if they asked me to draw a person or a person crossed with someone, I don't do very well. But I can't remember what any of them really were. I'm a pretty amazing artist. I don't mean to, like, talk myself up here, but I'm top 10 of all time when it comes to drawing animals in books. So no, I would say that everything I've ever drawn is quite good, and I never had a moment's worry about it. It is a weird thing. Like, you do get amnesia about certain things. Like, I do interviews, I go home, and my husband will be like, how'd it go? And I'm like, I have no fucking idea. I don't know what I said. I could have said anything. It might be the sort of thing where, like, on Twitter tomorrow, everyone's yelling at me, because that's always happening, that someone says something really dumb during an interview, and then everyone yells at them. It's going to happen someday. Maybe you can yell at me. Thanks. I look forward to it. Anyone else? Yes. I did promise to drink all this water, and I broke that promise, but it's not too late.
Can you talk a little bit about your experience writing the Trump piece for the New Republic?
I should just let that be my whole answer. It was actually really fun to write. I like to write to deadline, and I like to write about a specific delimited thing that happened. I had no background in journalism, I will say, so the fact-checking process was like totally crazy to me. So they thought, first of all, that I was lying about everything, which I was not. They were like, did you really enter the room and there was a picture of Melania embracing an inflatable shamu on the big like screen? And I was like, yes. And I hunted up the link and I'm like, here's the picture they were showing. He's like, oh, I thought you just like put that in there for some color. And I'm like, why would I do that? You can't make up the shit these people do. So I'm writing and I'm like, haha, this is a fun time. Donald Trump will never be president, you know? So I'm like typing away. I'm like, I should sound pretty serious about this, but you know, not like an alarmist or anything. And now I just want to like go back and choke myself, and every other person who wrote the same kind of piece that's like, we don't really have to worry about it. I understand that the people who are reading The New Republic were basically all of our, you know, mindset anyway, but it just made you wonder what you could have done if we could have tilted the conversation in a different direction. I mean, what you want to do when it comes to writing like someone like Donald Trump is just like to scream for 5,000 words. You can't do that. So I was like, let's, you know, get in there and like do a really good job with this. And you do the best you can, but you're also working within the mode of the conversation as it's already happening. So I think that a problem people have when they're like, why didn't people like stand up and write differently about this, is because it's hard to think about what a hold that exerts on people and how inflexible like the sort of communal voice about politics can be at times. And how we just couldn't step out of it for that moment, the majority of us. So yeah, when I think about it now, I'm like, ugh. But I enjoyed writing it a lot. But it was so horrible to be in a room with him. I can't even describe to you. It was like your skin crawled, and it was like he was like a little homunculus, like he wasn't a person, like he was, you know, like a sack of bugs or something, and you would just like pull a thread, and all the little worms would spill out. It was like that. It was like on that level. I had never had that experience before. But when it comes to doing that kind of thing, I like to give it a shot to see if I can do it, you know? So it'll probably be the only political piece I'll ever write, because I'm like, well, I can do it, and I'm never doing it again, and now moving on to something else. But yeah, so that one, I mean, I don't know how people who are actually on the beat writing pieces about the race like every day in the lead up to it, I don't know how all journalists have not just like quit their jobs. I don't know.
I'm a journalist, so that's
girl, I
found it very interesting.
I feel for you. Like, how does it feel? How does it feel for you guys?
Pretty terrible. I mean, what you said about writing within the mode of the conversation that's already happening is something that is definitely something that I think reporters have to struggle with.
Yeah,
so.
Emerson calls it the tune of the time. You sit down to produce something new that is original out of yourself, and you end up only replicating the tune of the time. And that is something that's really difficult to step outside, and it's something that is very dangerous when it comes to politics and when it comes to a dude like this, obviously. Yeah. I'm with you. Thank you for your service. Anyone else? I think it was Emerson. Fucking look it up later. I don't know. It's probably him. Are we good? Yeah. All right.